What's up, everybody? This is Andrew Erickson here for the Full Press Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm coming at you live here from Arizona, where we're going to be talking some Cardinals football. So this is all part of a new segment here that I'm starting here with Full Press Coverage. We're going to be looking at 32 teams in 32 days. We're about 32 days, if you count today, into the season, the start of the NFL season. So, I'm excited, for fantasy football to get going here. I know the fans are excited, so I thought I'd come at you with some facts, fantasy stuff for each team individually. I'll start with the Arizona Cardinals, a team I used to cover for Full Press Coverage. And we'll actually start with some news. So, recently today, August 6th, is when we're recording this, Cardinals lose center A.Q. Shipley to a torn ACL. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about with the Cardinals is their offensive line seemed like it was going to be improving over the year, since last season. But it seems like, they're already kind of off to a rough start. So now they're going to have to slide in Mason Cole from Michigan, who they drafted in the third round, as that center to go alongside the rest of the offensive line, which kind of starts off as with Humphreys and Mike Upati on the left side, and then Justin Pugh and Smith on the right side. So the right side has been, guys coming in from different teams with Pugh and Smith. Humphreys and Mike Upati have already been on the roster, but were injured last year. So the offensive line, from paper looks better than it was last year. It can't possibly be worse because last year everybody was hurt. So what does this mean for fantasy? So basically, better offensive line means, we can complete more drives, things like that. But the biggest thing is obviously how it affects, your running back, David Johnson. So I'll be talking about David Johnson along with some of the other skill players for the Arizona Cardinals as we kind of go look into 2018 fantasy projections. So let's start with the running back position. So David Johnson's obviously coming back with Chase Edmonds as his major backup there from Fordham. So essentially what we want for David Johnson. So right now David Johnson for me is my number one ranked running back. The reason being because of his dynamic pass catching ability, because of the lack of other targets on the Cardinals offense, and I just think that he's coming off a season where he had a wrist injury. He's not coming off an ACL injury. He's not coming off any major surgery. He's coming off a wrist injury, which you could make the argument could affect his pass catching. He has to use his hands obviously to catch the ball, but I don't think that a wrist injury is really going to affect him too badly. He's fresh. We saw, Marshawn Lynch come back. He was fresh, off a year. Players come back. Adrian Peterson, after he was suspended for an entire season, he came back and I believe that was the year he ran for 2,000 yards. The season after that, apologize for, yawning, it's late here, in Arizona, there's no daylight savings. So, I like David Johnson as my number one running back. I think that it's between him and Zeke for me personally, but I think that if you throw in David Johnson's ability to be a pass-catching receiver, he's already done it. Zeke is being projected as being a guy that can put in those numbers and get those pass receptions, but David Johnson's done it already. He wants to join the 1,000 club, which, based on the offense and who else is on it, is entirely possible. So I like David Johnson. Offensive line should be better than last year. Sam Bradford and Josh Rosen. Now we'll talk about the quarterbacks. So Bradford and Rosen. Bradford, when he's played the last couple of years, he's actually been really good. He's actually had a really high quarterback rating in the last couple of games that he's played, in the past couple starts that he's had. The only thing with him that's worrisome, though, is his injury history. He's brittle as everything is bad. He's just super... he's got to put this guy in bubble wrap. But, the Cardinals did draft Josh Rosen as a guy to kind of fill in and be their quarterback of the future. So, in terms of when they would start Rosen, it's probably going to be at some point this season. Will it be an upgrade or downgrade from Bradford? I'm not sure, because it may be Bradford that gets hurt. But either way, having one of those guys in is probably going to be an upgrade from Blaine Gabbert and the other backups last year. Bradford has shown that he can move the ball down the field if he has good receivers. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired here. But, putting out that, all that Arizona Cardinals content for you guys. No worries. So, I like Bradford. Bradford, honestly, is not a bad choice in, late two quarterback leagues. He's basically going undrafted. And Josh Rosen in dynasty leagues is another guy to target. He seems like he's the most ready of the draft picks from this past season. So I do think that he does have some upside there within the Cardinals offense. And now kind of going to the receivers side. So Larry Fitzgerald, obviously, Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable. He's a locked in, wide receiver 1 in PPR leagues, basically. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. But, he's a guy that's just going to get it done. This could be his last year. He said that he's wanted to play longer. So I just traded for Larry Fitzgerald actually in a dynasty league. So I traded for Larry Fitzgerald and Lamar Miller for Alex Collins. So, it's definitely, I'm in a win now mode. I always want to win now. That's why you play to win. So getting Fitzgerald on a team is never going to be a bad choice in PPR leagues. But the thing that's interesting about Fitzgerald is his home road splits. So this guy has significantly over the past couple of years shown significant home road splits where he does really well at home versus on the road. And looking ahead at the Cardinals' schedule is very, very tough. The schedule is overall one of the toughest going into the next season. But what they do have is, some favorable games at home where their road games are really, really bad. They play really tough opponents on the road. And I think that Fitzgerald's going to get exposed on the road and not necessarily be super productive. But you can start him. So you can start him. Don't sleep on him. You can start him in home games this season confidently. And you can even probably bench him in road games confidently. So DK lineups, daily, regular season, whatever. Fitzgerald's playing at home, put him in your lineup. He's good to go. That being said, the other receivers. So the thing that we're going to see a little bit different here as well this year. So Cardinals have a new head coach, Steve Wilks, new offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy. Who's been with Denver, he's been with the Chargers, been with a couple different teams. And realistically, he runs a lot of 11 and 12 personnel. So either 3 wide receivers or 2 wide receivers, running back, tight end, stuff like that. So 11 personnel and 12 personnel. Or a 2 tight end set and 12 personnel. So what this means is it's going to be different from what the Cardinals have been running in the past. The Cardinals in the past have run a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. So that's why you'd see last year you had a lot of, Fitzgerald and J.J. Nelson and Jerron Brown and John Brown and all those guys are gone now. Or except for Larry Fitzgerald. So left on the depth chart for the receivers, this is what we got going on. So we got Fitz right there. You got Chad Williams, rookie from last year, second year receiver. Bryce Butler came over from the Cowboys. J.J. Nelson is still there. Christian Kirk is the rookie from Texas A&M that they drafted in the second round, so a higher pick. So those are the main guys, and then you got a couple other stragglers. Greg Little, bring the name back. Yeah, he's on the. I think that's is that the same Greg Little that's on the Browns? Someone's got to fact check that. Rashad Ross, Carlton, Agadosi, and a bunch of other guys that I've never heard of. So we'll focus on these guys for now. So what we're seeing here is, who's going to probably be, so if they're going to be in more 11 and 12 personnel, who's going to be the other opposite receiver outside of Fitzgerald? Fitzgerald will be in the slot for the most part. So who will be the outside receivers? So Bryce Butler is a guy that definitely comes to name. He's a deep threat guy. He's got speed on the outside. Never had a featured role, really. He was on the Raiders, on the Cowboys. So I think Bryce Butler has some decent upside as a kind of deep threat, best ball type of receiver. And the same can be said for J.J. Nelson. Both kind of have similar roles in terms of what they can do in their skill sets. J.J. Nelson's already been there before, so I might give him the edge over Bryce Butler just because he is familiar with the team a little bit more. But that being said, it is a new offense, new head coach, so that may not necessarily make a difference. So Bryce Butler and J.J. Nelson are the outside guys. Christian Kirk is an interesting guy. Love his talent out of Texas A&M, but he was really more of a slot guy. In an interview with the Fantasy Footballers, actually with Christian Kirk, that he had said himself that, hey, they'd asked him basically, where do you think you play best, inside or outside? He's like, I basically play both. So, obviously, what most players are going to do is say that they're, good at everything, which isn't necessarily true. So what we want to look at this here is, if Fitzgerald is starting the slot, it's not going to be Kirk. And if they're not running 4 receivers, which is what they're probably not going to run with Mike McCoy, he's probably not going to be on the field unless he's playing on the outside. So that is worrisome for me. We've seen this before with a player like Nelson Aguilar, who primarily played in the slot in college, and then when he moved to the NFL, he was forced to play outside, and he wasn't as productive and kind of labeled as a bust essentially until this last year, when they put him in the slot, and it's like, oh wow, he's actually pretty good because he was putting in a position to succeed. Mike McCoy is known to put players in positions to succeed, so it may be that, okay, hey, he can play this, he can play outside. That's why he's playing outside, or he's not going to necessarily see that much time because Mike McCoy knows his best role is in the slot. So unless an injury happens to Fitzgerald, we might be a year out from a Christian Kirk breakout as that slot receiver. So if I had to put my staple on a guy here, I'm gonna put it on Bryce Butler. On the Cowboys, he left the Cowboys for greener pastures, and we've seen that Fitzgerald is kind of that main guy. They had David Johnson back there. I mean, David Johnson will probably finish as the number 2 receiver in terms of yardages and receptions, but I'll go with Bryce Butler. He did, have his moments in Dallas as a deep threat, and he's definitely a viable asset that can probably stand out in this offense and doesn't have nagging injuries like J.J. Nelson has had. Chet Williams wasn't super impressive last year, but that's kind of what I'm thinking for the receivers. I really don't feel comfortable drafting him inside of Fitz. Christian Kirk's guy I'm not targeting. I don't think just seems like he's a year out in terms of what his production could really be for this season. But, speaking of yawning, talking about sleepers, Ricky Seals-Jones, converted tight end from Texas A&M. Again, a lot of Texas guys here in Arizona. So, Ricky Seals-Jones, and you got Jermaine Gresham, who I'm pretty sure is still hurt. Someone's got to confirm that. But once again, going back to the personnel, the Cardinals ran 4 receiver sets a lot last year. They're not doing that this year. They have a new coach, Mike McCoy, who's had tight ends, been efficient with tight ends. Antonio Gates, Julius Thomas, guys that aren't exactly known for blocking very well and doing their blocking things. Ricky Seals-Jones is a hybrid tight end that can be used as that move tight end in space. And I do like his projected volume, projected role in the offense. He's a tight end to get super cheap in drafts. So I really like Ricky Seals-Jones. I'm actually probably going to buy him as any other option. I think I'd probably draft Ricky Seals-Jones instead of any of these other wide receivers outside of Larry Fitzgerald. I just think that he has the most upside, obviously at the position, which is super shallow, I guess, best way to put it. I really think that Ricky Seals-Jones has an opportunity to explode this year as that tight end. We saw some glimpses of it last year. So if you're going to put your stamp on anybody, put it on Ricky Seals-Jones as your tight end. So in summary, David Johnson, my running back 1 overall. Larry Fitzgerald is locked in as a wide receiver. I would say top 15 wide receiver in PPR. I mean, probably even higher. But he's going to give you solid production. But keep it ahead of the home road splits. Play him at home. On the road, fade him away. And then sleepers, Ricky Seals-Jones at the tight end position. Chase him. And then chasing him, Chase Edmonds is that other guy. If for some reason David Johnson does go down, I do believe that Chase Edmonds will be the guy that kind of takes over that third down role. They've already talked about him being a 3-down back, being able to have that type of ability, and the reason why they liked him so much from coming out of Fordham was he had that in his assets, in his skill set to be a 3-down back in case David Johnson were to get hurt again. But remember, David Johnson coming off a wrist injury. People are fading off him because it's short-term memory. No one remembers him because he didn't play last year. You remember Todd Gurley, you remember Ezekiel, you remember Le'Veon Bell. David Johnson was the best running back, and David Johnson was better than Todd Gurley was last year. David Johnson's 2016 season was better than Todd Gurley's 2017 season. Draft David Johnson number 1 overall. That's what I'm going to do. I'm in a draft. And my 2 keepers are Dalvin Cook and Larry Fitzgerald, and I get the number 1 pick because my team sucked because I traded away freaking Alvin Kamara and Deshaun Watson for JJ. Yeah. Terrible. Oh my god. Couldn't believe it. It's just disaster. But got the number 1 pick, so I'm looking to bounce back. I was taking over a abandoned team also. So my keepers last year were Greg Olsen and Bilal Powell. So this year it's a little bit better. Dalvin Cook, who I picked up, someone dropped him, so I picked him up and he was keeper eligible. Sneaky moves, I know. And then Larry Fitzgerald. So I'm going to have David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald. I actually tweeted something out about, if people are veering away from those two, and for the most part, it doesn't really seem like you should, and someone made the point, like, you can always trade somebody, and it's like, yeah, you're right, I can just trade Fitz or something like that. But, yeah, guys, I'm going to, post this up on YouTube. We're on YouTube. We're on the Full Press Coverage Podcast Network, wherever these podcasts ends up going. Please give it a listen. Give me a shout at Andrew Erickson _ on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, mostly Twitter. So just tweet at me, follow me, I'll follow back, and we can talk fantasy. So like I said, we're going to do 32 teams in 32 days. This is day 1, Arizona Cardinals. There may only be 31 days left, so I may have to double up, and I may skip a day. Sometimes I get tired, or I take a nap, some things like that. Things pop up. So if I miss a day, I'll double up and do two teams at once. I know it's kinky, but we'll make it happen. So once again, Andrew Erickson here, Full Press Coverage, Fantasy Football Podcast. Hopefully I'll have some guests on. If you want to be a guest on a show for a certain player, let me know. Just tweet at me, or a certain team, and we can talk, about that team. I got somebody for the Cleveland Browns I think they'll be excited to talk about. But good stuff, guys. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.